And if you're going to win souls, you've got to love souls. In spite of their meanness, in spite of the way they look, in spite of everything, you've got to seek to bring souls to Jesus Christ because you love them, because Jesus loved them, and because Jesus died for them, and you're trying to bring them to the Son of God.
Merry Christmas to you from Sandy Creek Stirrings. Of course, welcome back for another Friday episode, and today we have 3 focal points for newlyweds, or 3 newlywed focal points, however you want to say it. And we've got that today for you, part 2. And so you've already listened to part number 1. If you have not, let me encourage you to go back and listen to 3 newlywed focal points, part number 1, and we talk about that first area that you need to focus on as a newlywed couple, really any marriage. And so we talked about that last week. I say we, you say why? Why are you saying we? Because I'm joined by my wife, Tabitha. Say hello to everybody.
Hi.
And so it's good to have her back on here today for another podcast episode and finishing up the 3 focal points for newlyweds. And so make sure you go back and listen to that episode. There was a lot of great stuff in there and really good stuff for just marriage in general. It doesn't have to be newlyweds, but just marriage in general. And so we are excited. Christmas is right around the corner. All right, so it's only 1 week away. I mean, Christmas is 1 week away. Do you have all your shopping done?
Yes.
Did you buy me plenty of good stuff?
I did.
Expensive stuff?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. That's probably not a good thing. And we'll be talking about in point number 3 today. Just wait till that in point number 3. But anyway, 3 focal points for newlyweds today. Let's go ahead and jump right into the topic for today. Last week we talked about, I'm not going to tell you because you have to go back and listen. If you missed last week, you need to go back because really everything here is a base for going back and talking about those things and or what we're going to talk about today rather. So today, what's the second point that we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about differences. If there is an area you need to look at and really examine with your spouse, it's the area of differences. And it was one thing that was big for us. And really, you say, what's difference? Let me try and give that to you. What exactly I'm talking about? I'm talking about really expectations. What do you expect of your spouse? What does your spouse expect of you? Mm-hmm. And really, the factors that affect your expectations are your previous home. How were things done when you were growing up? You've got parental influence. How did your mom and dad handle things? For instance, who took out the trash? Okay, I know some ladies who they take out the kitchen trash because their husband's not at home all day. They don't want their husband to have to do it, so they take out the trash. I know some husbands who insist that it's the man's job. And so it really depends on, what do you expect? Because, you could get in a little spat over, well, I thought you were going to take out the trash. No, my dad took out, So you could get into something like that because of a parental influence. And then another thing is traditions. Big on holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Valentine's anniversary. I may be going into those holidays expecting something different than what Tabitha may be expecting. I know for you on Thanksgiving, typically went over to families' houses, right?
Yeah.
All right. And so my family on Thanksgiving, we did our own thing at home. We didn't go over to people's houses. We stayed home. It was like a family day. And we've learned to combine, I feel, the best of both worlds kind of in that.
Right.
Because we have plenty of our at-home, just us traditions. But we the past 3 years, we've had your family here for Thanksgiving. We've gone over to my parents' house for Thanksgiving. And so we really adapted. But the point is we had to sit down and determine, what are we going to do? Our expectations were a little different. Right. And then, of course, just your desires in general. What does your spouse want and desire of you? Ask them. So expectations are big.
Right. I think it'd be good, too, for couples to sit down and talk about before they get married and shortly before they get married and talk about their expectations and just things in general that you need to discuss probably before.
Sure.
Like, for instance, children. I know that we sat down and we talked about how many we wanted to have and all of those different expectations with
that's
kids.
Big, because if your wife expects to have 6 and you want 1, that could be an issue there.
And then diet. Diet was another one that we had to discuss. We had to discuss it because
know.
for you,
I was the healthy and you were a
no.
person.
I was the healthy. I was like very healthy. We had chicken and
Let
salad
me
all
put
the
it.
time.
Let me put it to you this way: when I went over to Tabitha's house when we were courting, when I went over to Tabitha's house, I can name 2, maybe 3, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 times that we had something different than a like broiled, grilled, maybe what do you call pan-fried chicken and some salad. One time we had like a chili cheese dip, and the other time we had cereal, which was weird in and of itself. In fact, when Tabitha and I were courting, if I was able to go down for like a couple of days, I'd stay at my grandparents' house, and then I would drive back and forth about 45 minutes between her house and my grandparents' house. On my way out of town, I'd always pick up lunch for everybody.
Yes.
And I still remember y'all's lunch order.
Uh-huh.
There was 3 of you, your sister, your mom, and you.
Yeah.
And it was 3 Southwest chicken salads grilled with the sauce packet on the side, because I'm pretty sure y'all only used half a packet.
Pretty much.
And then you wanted a large unsweet tea with 1 Splenda, but don't put the Splenda in, because I'm pretty sure y'all only put 1 half packet of Splenda in that unsweet tea.
I put the whole one.
Oh, good. And, that's still not sweet enough. I mean, those things are big. And so, yeah, we were different. I grew up, eating, she grew up eating salads and chicken. I grew up eating like, heart attack in a bowl. And so, yeah, diet can be one.
Another one I would say is chores. Who's going to take out the trash? You discussed that earlier. Who's going to wash the dishes? Who's going to mow? Who's going to take care of the pests like mice and roaches and all of the scary things?
Yeah, you got to figure that out. And some husbands may be expecting their wives to, because they're wimps. And but really, men, be a man and handle it for your wife. Kill the spiders, kill the roaches, eradicate the mice. And let me say on that point, sometimes it's okay to call on the experts when you've exhausted all your resources. There are a few areas where I think try, but if you can't get it done, call in the expert. 1, I think, is electrical.
Right.
2 is plumbing for some. Plumbing.
Yeah.
And the 3rd one for me, though, is pest control. If you can't get pest control, they're going to control. I remember here, we lived in this 5th wheel. It was winter. It was cold. And, there's anywhere and everywhere any type of rodent can get in this thing. I mean, it's not that hard. And I remember that we had mice in the bottom cupboard.
Oh.
And we would go in to get a bag of chips or something. The bag would be ripped open and eaten. And so we learned to keep everything up top. But I remember, I did my best battle plan. I worked at Ace Hardware at the time, so I just went and I bought, I think, every trap available. I bought glue traps and normal traps and the little spinner. I bought everything there was imaginable. I bought poison, and we still had the same issue. And so I remember I called pest control because, guys, at some point you got to realize, at some point I just need to get it fixed.
Right.
And so we called pest control. I remember the guy set a trap and taught us that mice love gummy bears.
Yes, they do.
And so he set traps in. He put a trap in the bottom cupboard, and I was there with him. I was talking to him. I was like, he said, you might have like 2 or 3 mice. He said, from the way it looks, maybe 2 or 3. And so I remember he closed the cupboard door, and we heard snap.
Oh.
And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. We have an infestation. Like, there's billions of them.
Ew.
And no, there wasn't billions of them. There was literally only 2. He was right. Pretty cool pest control guy. And but yeah, be willing to call in the expert at some point.
Yeah. I'd say another one, you kind of talked about this, is holidays. Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, should we open up presents? Should we do a family Thanksgiving? Should we go somewhere and do family Thanksgiving? Do we celebrate Halloween?
Yeah.
Or should we go out to eat, or should we stay home on Valentine's Day? Those types of things. Yeah. Holidays are important.
We know a couple that one of the husband was okay with Halloween. The wife was adamantly against Halloween.
Right.
I don't know if it caused a spat or not. I know they're fine with it today. They don't celebrate Halloween, and they're fine with it. But I know it was something a little bit different. So, yeah.
I think another one, too, would be careers. Does the husband expect the wife to stay at home and take care of the kids? Does he expect her to be a teacher or have a degree of some kind and go out and work a job? I think they should discuss that. Another one is schedule.
Sure.
What does he expect of you during the day, or what does she expect of you when you come home from work?
Yeah, and that can be different. You can totally expect different things when you're first married. I knew a couple. the husband in this particular couple that I'm talking about, not giving any names, the husband in this particular couple I'm talking about, he had watched his father. His father always, when he got home from work, would go out into the garage and do models. And so this husband thought that's what a husband did. So he would get home, kiss his wife. I think they would eat dinner possibly. And then he would spend the rest of the evening doing models in the garage. And I'm pretty sure that it led to a spat because she was expecting him to come home and just spend time with her. And he was expecting to go out in the garage. And they remedied it. And doing well, but that can be something different. The point is, it's a difference that you two may not have been expecting, and that's why it's wise to communicate and figure out those expectations. And a lot of times, it's better to determine them ahead of time.
Right. I think the biggest one of all is church.
Yeah.
Or even like devotions, what you expect of them. I think you need to be clear as far as the solid Christian that you expect to be in services, as far as what you expect your husband or your wife to be a solid Christian and to be in services. So do they expect you to be there for every single service? Do they expect you to miss services because that's what their father did or that's what their mother did for work? Different things like that. So I definitely think that's an important one as well.
That's big. That's big. And as mentioned before, we're not talking about a whole lot of necessarily like deep dive spiritual thing like, hey, you need to be reading your Bible and stuff like that. The hope is that if you're listening to Sandy Creek Stirrings, you're reading your Bible, you're praying, you're being faithful to church, you're being a soul winner, you're tithing, you're doing all those things because those are going to lead to it. But we're trying to focus on some other aspects of marriage. And, so obviously it would be best to discuss your expectations, the differences before you get married.
Right.
But if nothing else, sit down after you're married, sit down, discuss them, write them down. And really, if you write them down, it's pretty neat because you'll watch how they change over time. I remember we wrote down ours before I got married. Well, we got married.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wrote down is that I expect you to have dinner every night on the table at 6 o'clock. That's not my expectation anymore. I really don't care when it's on the table. I want it when I'm hungry. And so really now we eat at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
If not 4:45. We eat early. And so the point is there are differences, and it's better if you can talk about them. And sometimes this has happened where Tabitha and I will have a little bit of a miscommunication on something. And I've gone to her, she's come to me and said, okay, what do you expect of me in this situation?
Right.
Because next time I'll handle it different. You got upset with me because you were expecting me to do something different. I remember not long ago, we had a revival. And every night we were getting home late, and Tabitha looked at me, and she said, I need you to help me with the kids. And she was kind of a little frustrated with me, and I don't blame her. And she said, I need you to help me with the kids. And so I remember I went to you, and I said, okay, what are you expecting of me? I noticed you were a little frustrated. And she said, no, I just expect you, just if you could, just help me with the kids a little bit. Maybe brush their teeth, maybe, And I was oblivious. I was doing other things. And so, but the point is, I went to her and said, what do you expect of me? And that allowed me to remedy it so we don't face the same problem again.
Right.
And that's the important part of doing that. Now, to give you a practical example, when you were raised in your home, you opened, let's take holidays, you opened Christmas gifts on
Christmas Eve.
Which is an abomination. For true Christmas people, everybody knows that is an abomination. You don't open up gifts on Christmas Eve. You open them on Christmas Day. And so when we first got married, we had to determine, I'm expecting to open them up on Christmas morning. You're expecting Christmas Eve. And so we had to talk about it, and we developed a compromise that we open up our stockings, and I think even some extended family gifts every now and then.
Right.
Depends on how extended they are.
Right.
And we open up those things on Christmas Eve, but we open up the main portion of the gifts on Christmas morning. And it's become our thing that we do. And it's important to learn to compromise.
Right. I think, too, learning to make a creative compromise that works for the both of you to better your relationship. Like for us, I know different traditions and stuff like that. That was big for us. We had to establish that before Christmas or the holidays came, obviously. But to remember that it's okay not to be your parents. I know for me, knowing that we weren't going to open up presents on Christmas Eve was kind of like, oh, that's so sad. I don't know if I could do this. But learning to just say, okay, well, I know we can't open Christmas. We're not going to open Christmas Eve, but what if we open our stockings on Christmas Eve, or doing things like that where you can do things a little different and it's okay. It's not gonna ruin everything and ruin your life. So I think different things like that, and just learning to accept the fact that because it's two people becoming one, there's going to be things that you both will disagree on. And I think knowing that and just going into that with an open mindset. So
sure. And remember, it's okay because it makes it your own. You don't have to be your parents.
Right.
And you can do things a little different. If necessary, you can do things a lot different.
It's true.
Look at your parents. What were they good at?
Right.
What could they have been better at? And what you do is you make those changes within your marriage. And on that note, remember, this is your marriage.
Right.
It's not your parents' marriage. It's not your grandparents' marriage. It's not your friend's marriage. You do things the way you feel led. And really, sometimes you're going to have to be willing to put your foot down and say, no, we're doing it this way.
Right.
For some people, holidays is a big issue, and they've got this family telling them they need to come here, and this family, if necessary, this is your marriage, put your foot down and say, no, we're doing Thanksgiving this way.
Right.
Because this is my family, this is our marriage, and we're going to do it the way we want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that, it's your marriage. So on that same tone, don't go running and communicating all your problems to everybody else.
Oh,
you communicate between you and your wife,
right?
But it's not their marriage, so they don't need to know your problems.
Yeah.
And so differences are a big deal. Differences. So learn to sit down, talk about your expectations with your spouse. If you've just had a little bit of a discussion, learn to sit down and say, "Hey, what are you expecting of me in this situation, so I don't make the same problem twice."
Right.
All right, so number three, and we'll be finished up with the 3 focal points for newlyweds, is budget. Budget. I cannot minimize. I can't even maximize. Does that even make sense? I can't do either of those in the areas concerning budget and finances. Let me just be frank. Early on in our marriage, we did not control our finances, and it put us in a hole that we really had to dig out of.
Yeah.
So right off the bat in marriage, if I can tell you those 3 things, the first one that you need to go back and listen to if you haven't already, the second one being differences. You need to have good decisions too, but differences. Number 3 is really a written budget is key.
Right.
And really, you might tie this up with differences as far as their place. Maybe budget could be number 2. I don't know. But right off the bat, you need to get on a written budget. I mean, budget every single dollar, where it should go for that pay period, and you budget before you spend one single penny. You don't stop off at the coffee shop and buy a coffee on your way home because you got paid. You budget every single penny and determine where every penny goes. And, learn to live below your means.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to save.
Yeah.
Unless you're a rich person, even then you don't have to live like a rich person. I'm not rich. I don't have to live like I'm rich, okay?
Right.
Yes, I enjoy my life. I love my life. I can't go buy everything on the planet and just charge it.
Exactly.
So learn to live below your means, learn to save. And you need to have an actual budget, not an imagination, not an estimated budget, okay? I'll be honest, when we first got married, I said, yeah, we budget. We didn't actually budget. What I would do is if Tabitha said, hey, you want to go out to eat? I would get out my phone and I would open our banking app and I'd say, sure, we have da-da-da amount in our bank. There we go. We have enough money to go. And off we went. That is not a budget. All right. That is not a budget. You will dig yourself into a hole if that is your budget. And so as far as in the area of budgeting, I don't know if you budget or not. You should. Mm-hmm. All right. And by the way, that doesn't matter if you're married or single. You need a budget.
Yes.
And one day we'll probably do a whole episode on budgeting, but and finances, godly finances, and yeah, that'd be good. And but when I first started settling down and truly after we dug ourselves in a hole, I'll just be frank, maxing out 2 credit cards and just getting in a mess of debt.
Yeah.
What I did is I created an Excel spreadsheet. Microsoft Excel, did the formulas, I would print it out, and that would be our budget, and that's what we would run. And that worked great. Didn't have a problem with that necessarily, but then we started using the EveryDollar app. It's free. There is a premium version, but we started using the EveryDollar app. You can find it both for iPhone, I believe, and Android.
It's amazing.
And that thing's great.
Yeah.
And that allows you to track your expenses as you go. I love it because if we're in the drive-thru or something at McDonald's or whatever, I can look at you and say, hey, put this receipt in the every dollar. And we always are tracking what we're spending and making sure we're sticking to our budget. And it allows you to pick all your budget lines, at the beginning of the month. So we have da-da-da for groceries. We have da-da-da for entertainment.
Right.
We have da-da-da for... And so great app. If I can recommend it to you, Every Dollar app. It works great. And but I can think when going back and researching and talking about budget, I can really think of 2 areas that we really overspent on. Do you want to name one?
Eating out. We ate out all the time. Probably a lot. I'd say probably
a lot.
Probably like
it's very
6
specific.
to 7 times a week because we would go out after church on Wednesday night. We'd go out after church on Sunday.
Sure.
We'd go out to go before visitation, before we would go soul wedding. We would go get coffees and Dunkin' Donuts and we ate out like crazy.
We ate out above our means.
Yeah.
During this time, I was making $10.25
It's insane.
as a weekend quote unquote manager. We were closed on Sundays at the hardware store, but I was making $10.25, and so we were eating out, as you said, probably a lot. And no, we were eating out a lot for sure, probably 6 to 7 times a week, and that was big. That was big.
I kind of want to go back and look at our bank statements and see how much we really did spend.
I don't. That was terrible. And truth is, it wasn't our bank statements. It was our credit card statements. And so we ate out a ton. I mean, truth be told, here's the real deal when it comes to eating out. That $15 meal you paid for can probably most likely be made at home for under $5. That's the statistic. There's a stat that says also that 80 to 85% of your out to eat bill is really just atmosphere and service. Put it this way. If you go and you buy a $10 burger, wrong. You paid $2 for that burger. You paid $8 for somebody to cook it and hand it to you. And really, we wasted a lot of money eating out. Yeah. Take our advice. It's okay to eat out, and you should. It's okay to go out on a date. It's okay to do those things. And we still eat out.
Yeah.
We just don't do it 6 to 7 times a week anymore.
Right.
And I remember watching as we racked up our credit card bills early on and saying, I'd look at our credit card statement and say, how did we get $100 on our bill this week? And I'd say, as you said, because we had McDonald's on Sunday, and then we ate at the food court at the mall on Monday, and then we had Hardee's after church on Wednesday, and then we had a date on Friday, and then we grabbed a Dunkin' Donuts, bagel, and coffee on Saturday morning. When you pair those together, it adds up. It really does. So you have to be careful. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying go out to eat. Tabitha and I enjoy going out to eat.
Right.
Sometimes we go to nicer places. Sometimes the whole month we won't go to any place but like a fast food joint. It really just depends. The most recent date we went on, where'd we go? Good. My mind's going blank too. We ate at Hardee's. That's where we ate.
Oh,
and we had a chicken sandwich. Okay, it's okay to do that sometimes. Sometimes we go to a fancy place like Cracker Barrel.
Fun spot.
And that's not super fancy, but it's okay to do both. But at the same time, you got to learn to budget. Okay, here's how much money we can use to go out to eat this month.
Right.
And once we're out,
we're done.
We can't go. And that's a sad fact for somebody, but you need to budget it. What's another area?
Right. Shopping. We did a lot of shopping when we first got married. We would get bored, so we would go shop.
Yeah.
We would go to the mall because we would be bored, and so we'd just find our way magically at the mall. Yeah. So after we ate a meal and put it on the credit card, then we'd go shopping and put it on the credit card. We would go to outlet centers and it would be anything. We could even go to Walmart and spend loads of money if we wanted to.
Yeah. And all of it saying that, we're just going window shopping. But if you go window shopping 3 to 4 times a week, it's not long before you're going to start spending stuff. And what compounded it for us was we live in a rural area.
Right.
Literally. This is not a joke. Literally. Yeah. If we want to go to Walmart or the mall or anywhere, we're either going 30 minutes north or 30 minutes south. There is not a Walmart closer than that. And you think I may be kidding. I'm not kidding. It is half an hour away from us. So there's the gas money. We're doing an hour of driving just because we want to go window shopping because we're bored. And, shopping can be one of those things, but there's alternatives.
Right. You can learn to do dates and activities that don't cost that much money. Eat
or
later.
Any money.
Yeah, or any money. I know for us, we started planning our meals. So when we started putting that budget out and having a stricter budget, I would have a certain amount of money that would come in for groceries. And so I would know, okay, one of our dates we're going, or two of our dates or three of our dates, if we can't afford it really, we're going to plan on just having a later night. So we'll put the girls in bed and we'll watch a movie, and we will have air fryer hot wings and fries.
Those are good. If you want a good recipe for air fryer hot wings, we've got it for you.
Yes.
Anyway.
So that's something that we did that didn't cost any money because we had already put aside that money anyways. Sure. So it was just a matter of putting in the extra effort.
Yeah. I remember one night we ate hot wings, and we had laid a towel on the floor, and we had a picnic in front of a movie. And we had forgot to pick up the towel. And Liberty came in the next morning. She's like, "Oh, y'all had a picnic without me."
Poor girl.
She's had picnics in the living room before too. So
I know another thing we did, this was before Libby was born, but we would go for walks with coffee, and we would brew coffee at home.
We still do that every now and then.
Yeah, we still do. More in the winter when it's nice and cool outside.
Not in the summer.
But another one is board games and card games. If you want to take a few months and save up some money for some good board games, and decide, okay, we're going to spend or do this year, we're going to have a bunch of good, fun board games.
Sure. Let's be honest, good board games are expensive.
Yeah, they are. So I can understand that one. But there's fun games too that aren't that expensive. Like, throw a burrito. It's not that expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Another one would be state parks and going out and just going for a walk. It's not expensive to buy a parking ticket and just go park and go somewhere and walk. Go for a drive. I know we sometimes like to brew coffee and then go out and just drive around and just see things.
Now you're using gas money, but you know sometimes you have the extra gas budget. And but the point is, all those ideas you mentioned, and there's plenty more. Maybe we should do top 100 date apps. And but if you want to hear about that, hit us up in the comments. And but anyway, go for a drive and talk about your future. I love that. That's for me is one of my biggest things.
Yeah.
Is just for one, when you moved here, when we got married, I still wasn't very familiar with the area.
Right.
And so we got out. Not only did I start to learn the area and the demographics of this rural area, but I learned the roads and everything, but we got to talk about our future, different things. We both know the areas we would like to live in one day within this area. And so learn to do that. And so, and another thing to consider when shopping, you mentioned shopping overall.
Yes.
Is to learn if you actually do need something, and there are needs, there are wants, okay, I get that. When doing those things, learn that it's okay to buy secondhand. It's okay to buy used. It's okay to buy from a thrift store or a Goodwill. Mm-hmm. I think I've got 5 suits/sport coats in my closet that I wear on Sundays and Wednesdays and blah, blah, blah. I think 3 of them are all Goodwill finds.
I think so, yeah.
And of course, I'm not going to buy something with stains on it. You must understand all that.
Right.
But it's okay if you find a good product to buy it used or secondhand. Learn to buy online through Facebook or eBay, or Facebook Marketplace, that is, eBay or Mercari, or there's plenty of other ones out there. Learn that it's okay to buy used and secondhands. Not second hands. You don't want to buy more hands. And if you could buy that, and more hands, that'd be pretty cool. But you can't. So learn to buy second hand. But it's okay to buy things that are used, but in good condition. Now, let me stress that. I'm not saying go out there and buy junk just because it's cheaper. You want things in good condition. Sometimes it's worth it just to pay the full price for something. Okay, I'll say that too. But always remember this: a want isn't a need.
Right.
A want isn't a need. And you need to remember that early on. Tabitha was good about that when we went shopping, early on when we go to the mall or something. We'd just be walking around and we'd go into JCPenney and she'd go to the sale rack and she'd be like, hold up this shirt, and she'd be like, oh, I love this shirt. And I want to be her Prince Charming. And I'd say, but you can buy anything you want, sweetheart. Just go ahead and buy it. Money's no option. The reality was it wasn't an option because we were charging it.
Right.
And so it felt like you weren't spending any money. And that's statistically proven to be true, folks. When you spend with a credit card, statistically proven you'll spend more money.
Right.
And so it's important to minimize credit card use. Right.
And that's a good point. Minimize your credit card use. It's easy to rack things up until you have an interest payment you struggle to keep up with each month.
Yeah.
It brings different level of stress that you can't even keep up with the bills from 6 months ago. It just keeps adding on to this burden that's already heavy, and you just keep having to see it and deal with it constantly. It's awful.
And the point is you're carrying a $2,000 limit
Right.
and you're maxed out. But the point is you keep buying stuff, because have you noticed the credit card always increases your limit once you're maxed out?
Yes.
And
It's lovely.
the point is, it's causing you to spend more. It really is. Now, for us, I'm going to come right out there and say this. This may not be for everybody, but for us, the best financial decision we ever made behind tithing, of course. Tithing is the number one best financial decision we made. Number two, being on a budget. But number three for us was saving up, saving, and working hard at paying off our credit cards.
Yes.
And then cutting them up and get rid of them.
Yes.
And to this day, we don't have a credit card. And here's the deal. We took the biblical principle that the borrower is servant to the lender. That is a biblical truth. You cannot get away from that. And we decided we did not want Capital One or Citibank to be, if we're a servant, that means they're our rulers. Right. And so at least learn to minimalize credit card use. But if necessary, if you're having a problem with it, the option for you may be just to get rid of it. And yes, you can survive without a credit card.
Yeah, and I would say also learn to think long-term about your finances. Where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? And how is the purchase you're going to make going to affect that? How is it going to help you? How is it going to hinder you?
Yeah. Well, we're saving for a house. And still working on that. There's a bunch of things that we do without because we're trying to think long term with our finances.
Right.
And Christmas is a setback. We had fun with Christmas shopping this year.
Did.
But we still learned to shop on a budget.
Right.
We planned for each and every single person how much we were going to budget, and we stayed within that budget.
I really didn't buy you expensive gifts, so just so you
praise the Lord. And so we're saving for a house. The point is sometimes we say no to stuff because it's going to affect us. You say that's only $3 box of ice cream. Yeah, but I bought that $3 box of ice cream on Monday. I bought an $8 bag of coffee on Tuesday. I bought, a cheesecake on Wednesday. The point is it all adds up, and you are setting yourself back if you don't learn to say no and stick to your budget.
Yep.
So that's a few areas, folks. Number one being what we talked about last week. And then two, if you made it all the way to this point, you still haven't listened to it, we talked about communication last week. And secondly is differences. And then third is the budget. And really, couples in general just need to watch out for and be careful about these three areas. And if you do, you'll miss some potholes in the road of marriage that we hit. I'm not saying this is, stuff everybody deals with. Communication, I will argue everybody deals with.
Right.
Budget, I will argue everybody deals with. In fact, I believe, according to stats, it's the number one divorce-related topic is finances. I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what the statistics say. I know you are. And so, but the point being, these are some things we've learned in our short amount of time we've been married. These are some things we learned.
Right.
And if it can be a blessing to you, praise the Lord. And so, Tabitha, thank you so much for coming. I feel weird calling you Tabitha. Tabby. Yeah, that's what I call her. I call her Tabby. Thanks for coming on the podcast and helping me with this episode. You've been my favorite guest so far. I think, in fact, you've definitely been the prettiest guest I've had so far.
Thanks. I hope
but,
so.
I may even give you a kiss after this episode as soon as we say goodbye to the listeners. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Good. And so to all my listeners, don't let your marriage go by the wayside. Fight for it. Love your spouse. Enjoy your time with them. And this Christmas season is a great time to just renew that romance in your marriage and focus on spending time together and have a good Merry Christmas together. So, we are going to play a Christmas song for you today. We're going to play Go Tell It on the Mountain from Oh Holy Night, piano solos by Caleb Galvin. You can buy that CD at nvpublications.org. That stands for North Valley, nvpublications.org. Again, that CD is entitled Oh Holy Night by Caleb Galvin. And we're going to play the song for you, Go Tell It on a Mountain, or on the mountain. And but until next time, Merry Christmas from Sandy Creek Stirrings. And keep looking up and keep stirred up for the cause of Christ.